Hi, everyone. Welcome to the summit. My name is Lori Gambacorta, and I have the absolute pleasure of being here today with Koya Webb. And if you haven't met this woman yet, you are going to be just floored with the wisdom she has to share today. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we get started. Koya is a global lifestyle entrepreneur, coach, and transformational specialist dedicated to holistic well-being. Through her signature lifestyle design method, she inspires sustainable changes that empower individuals to cultivate self-care and achieve optimal health. As the founder of Get Loved Up, a yoga school and community, Koya reaches millions, advocating for self-care, social justice, and sustainable living. She's a trusted expert featured on NBC, CBS, The Steve Harvey Show, and she has more than 20 years of experience. Koya is the author of Let Your Fears Make You Fierce: How to Turn Obstacles into Seeds for Growth. Her mission is to inspire individuals and organizations globally to embrace holistic health and sustainability. Koya empowers people to embrace holistic living and leads wellness retreats globally alongside her partner, Darren Granger. Koya, it's such an honor to have you here, and thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us and help people live the best year of their life in 2025.
Well, thank you for all those kind things you said. And it is such an honor to be here. I mean, there's a lot going on in this world, so it's beautiful to be alive and well.
Well, let's dive right into the juicy stuff. And in your experience as a coach, what are some of the most common fears that people have and the obstacles that are holding them back from truly growing?
That's such a good question because that's what I get asked the most, of course, because of my book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. But it hasn't changed. One of the biggest fears is the fear of failure. And there's the fear of being judged. And then there's the fear of the unknown. And when it comes to the fear of failure, a lot of times it will stop people from even trying. And it's not that they don't have the skills or the expertise, but they're so afraid of failing. And the truth is, failing is your friend. Like when you fail, you learn so much. You learn, who your market is. You learn what you like, what you don't like. You learn what your community likes and doesn't like. So it's really important to embrace failure as an opportunity for growth versus avoiding it, which is what most people do. And a lot of times that fear will stop people from even trying. And then the next fear that is high up there is the fear of being judged. All of us are so unique and so beautiful. And I truly believe each one of us has a special and unique purpose on the earth. And so if the way we want to say something or do something or express something if it's not common, if it's not the norm, we are afraid because we think we're going to be judged because we do it a little differently. And the world needs for us to do it just the way we do it. And so the fear of being judged will stop a person from putting themselves out there, or they will put themselves out there like they've seen on social media or like they've read in a book or like someone else. And so it's not authentically them. And so they're not truly in alignment with their purpose. So the fear of judgment is really huge. And I like to tell people when I uncover that there's a fear of judgment, it's just like, trust your authentic self, trust your authentic voice, trust your authentic offering, because it's always going to be unique and no one in the world, even if you have a twin, has the exact same purpose as you. And then the last one, the fear of the unknown. Oh my goodness, we're in that now. We're in that now with politics. We're in that now with the world. We don't know what the heck is going to happen over the next couple of months, years, everything. But at the end of the day, there were people who have gone before us. There are people who will come after us. We literally just have to do the best we can. And that's how I personally find peace, because I can get a little worked up as an empath. I'm like, but this and that, and oh my God, and I have to save the world, But no one person is going to save the world by themselves. And the best that we can do is doing our best. And so when we let ourselves get so caught up in not knowing how this marriage is going to turn out, how, this job is going to turn out, we actually, that worry and that doubt lowers our vibration. And then we again are not living our full self. So we have to be careful. It's okay to have a little bit of doubt, but when we have the doubt and worry, it's important to lean into it and say, okay, what am I worried about? What do I fear? And have some exploration with it, because it will lead you to answers that you need to move forward. And that will help you be your best self no matter what you're facing, whether you know about it or not. If you are your best, then you are prepared.
That's awesome. I really love the way you reframed failure, and as a fellow coach and entrepreneur, I that's a big lesson to learn, that it's like, it's not just about that something didn't happen the way you wanted it to. It's like, well, what am I to learn from this? And, and asking empowering questions. So even if we're in circumstances that are unfavorable, that we're still asking, like, well, what am I meant to learn here? What kind of qualities are trying to emerge through me? So what are some of the ways that people can start to address those fears and obstacles?
Well, you went into it a little bit there with questioning, right? And I usually tell people to start journaling exactly how they feel. Right. The more we do what I call self reflection, and you can self reflect when you meditate, you can self reflect by journaling and just writing what's on your mind. You can self reflect like by asking questions, spending time in nature and just allowing nature to bring you those juicy answers. But self reflection and spending time alone, spending time in stillness, spending time in nature will help uncover, oh, this is what I'm feeling. A lot of time when there's too much noise, when we're like numbing ourselves with scrolling on social media, or when we're asking everybody and their mama what we should do about a situation, we're really not tuning in to our own unique voice. And so it's really important to go inward, to work things out. Because when you go inward, you tap into your soul and your soul's calling and your soul's purpose. It's not outside of you. It's never outside of you. Now, you can get inspired, which is, I say, is in alignment with spirit, by something outside of you. But anything that you're inspired by should lead you back to yourself. And when you're led back to yourself, that will give you the unique answers you need for your unique path. And so self-reflection, journaling, time in nature, love meditation, and breath work, all of those things will help you build the courage that you need to face your fears. And I always like to use the acronym, instead of forget everything and run, you will face everything and rise. If you take time for self reflection and say, you know what, no matter how much I have this fear, even I usually do tapping so much, no matter how much fear I have, I will move forward in faith. I will move forward knowing that if I do the best that I can, I will be in alignment with my truth. And I really think that will build up the courage you need to move forward.
Thank you for that. So courage can mean different things to different people. So how do you define courage, and how can individuals cultivate it in their daily lives?
I feel like courage is being willing to move forward with your knees shaking, right? Your legs shaking, knees knocking, being able to move forward in faith is what I feel like courage is, even though you're scared. To me, it's not courageous to do something that you're not really scared about, because, oh, that's just easy for you. But courageous is moving forward when you have doubt, when you have fear, when you're scared, when you don't necessarily have the support that you need or wanted, but moving forward anyway and saying, you know what, I know this is for me to do, and I'm going to figure it out along the way. A lot of times we want to have everything figured out. And I get it. I love planning. I love organization, but it's not always like that. Like, life is not always planned. There will always be surprises. And I like the word resilient. Like, people say to me all the time, you're so resilient. And now I'm like, resilience comes from being let down a lot, from being hurt a lot, from experiencing trauma a lot. But every time I pick myself up and move forward, I am building my courage because I know that I'm not going to stay down. I'm not going to stay stuck. And no matter what, I'm going to move forward.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned moving forward in faith a couple of times. Can you say a little bit more about what that looks like? What?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Faith is, faith is moving forward and knowing that things will work out, even if you can't see it and even if you haven't seen it before. Like I have faith in that the world is love and God is love. And at the end of the day, even though there's a lot of negative things happening, at the end of the day, it's all trying. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but it's trying to move us towards love because I believe, fear is a lower vibration of love that is letting us know we're not okay or something is wrong. So faith is saying, okay, I know I'm not okay. I'm going to move forward anyway and figure out what's wrong, what's going on. So when you have faith, you know that love is the answer. You know that love is the end, and you have faith that you will figure it out along the way, especially if you don't have the answers right in front of you.
Wow. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I feel like everything that happens to us is happening for a reason. And even though it may not seem like it, it's always happening for us. In your book, you talk about transforming obstacles into opportunities. So, can you share a couple of examples from your own life where you were able to turn fear into a catalyst for growth?
Absolutely. I feel like it's really hard when, something terrible happens and you're like, okay, this is happening for someone. I feel like a little bit differently. I feel like things happen in the world based on what we're creating and co-creating together. And some of those things are devastating. And some of those things don't seem fair, especially like I just read something in the news and the hurricane wiped out this woman and her children that she just had, and it's like, okay, what is the fairness in that, right? And so I like to talk about catastrophic events because that's when people don't understand. Like they ask the question, like, where is God? Or like, what is happening? Or why would this be allowed to happen, right? My understanding is that we are co-creating, and because of how terrible we treat Mother Earth and her need to detox and purify, we have these life-threatening events happen to us on a global level, and they harm some of us, and some of us end our human experience before it was maybe meant to, and I feel like that is horrible. But I do think it is a collective awakening that is happening that we need to move differently. And personally, when people have health issues, it's like we need to eat healthier and move our body. These are things we need to do. So first we get sick, and then maybe our skin breaks out, and then we're not well. But it's like we have these opportunities for growth when reality is unfavorable, right? When we're experiencing these obstacles, there are an opportunity for us to see, where am I misaligned? Am I misaligned in my health? Am I misaligned with my connection to God? Am I misaligned in my emotions? Right? Am I misaligned in my community? So this is an opportunity for us to realign. So for me, when I experience failure, when I experience trauma in life, I've been through quite a bit of trauma. I realize, okay, that is an opportunity for me. And maybe that's an opportunity for humanity by me speaking out about what happened to me or what I've been through. And I think, even when I was afraid, to speak, about having seasonal depression and going through high functioning depression, that was something that I was scared about because I was like, well, I don't want anyone to feel like, something's wrong with me or worry about me, or I don't want someone to think that I'm less than, but really when I shared, so many people were like, oh my goodness, I never heard of that. I never knew that. Oh my goodness, I totally identify, and so it really helps people understand. So what I saw as an obstacle was really an opportunity for me to be authentic, for me to share, for other people to be seen. So that's really what the book is about. It's really me sharing my stories that I've been through to let other people see that you are not alone in your trauma. You are not alone in your tragedies. It's happening. But can we turn ourselves from a victim, which is true? You might be a victim for that one time or whatever happens, but can we turn ourselves into a creator? And that's the next chapter. You're not a victim, you're a creator. And being a victim of something really terrible, it's terrible, right? But what can you create from this really terrible thing that happened, right? And how can you turn this obstacle of what happened into an opportunity for growth and expansion? So for me, I turn it into an opportunity to speak, to share, to let people know that they're not alone. And I really hope that each person, reading the book realizes that, when things happen to you, they are terrible. Nothing takes that away.
Yes.
But there is something that you can do about it. You're a victim once, but you don't have to be a victim your entire life. You can become a creator of a new reality, no matter what happens to you.
Yes, when I say things are happening for us, that's kind of what I mean. It's almost like it's not to minimize the trauma or the suffering that might be happening in the situation, but to recognize that there's also something else there. There is this impulse toward evolving us to becoming more authentic, more of who we truly are. So, can you share how your signature lifestyle design method helps people transform fear into motivation for growth?
Absolutely. Lifestyle design is all about knowing what your values are, right? A lot of us, we don't even know what we like, what we don't like, what we value, what we don't value. We just kind of do what our family did or do what our friends, like or do. But when we really learn our values, we can set our intention for our lives. And then once we set our intentions for our life, we can actually set up daily habits that we flow through on a regular basis to make sure that we are in alignment with our intentions. And of course, our intentions are in alignment with our values. So, lifestyle design goes through the 6 areas of well being, and it takes people through spiritual well being, emotional well being, physical well being, nutritional well being, social well being, and financial well being. And we look at every area, we rate ourselves in every area, and then we develop intentions in every area based on our value. And then from that, we see how we can create a daily schedule of living in alignment with our truth. Because a lot of times people are just saying it and it sounds good, but they really don't know how to actualize it in their life. So one of my specialties is the practical application of, you say you want to be healthy. Okay, saying it is beautiful. But unless you drink water in the morning, unless you have fruits and vegetables available, you're going to pick up the candy bar. Unless you make time in your schedule to work out, whether it's 10 minutes at home or going to a gym, chances are you're not going to get your movement in. If you don't make time to plan with your family or friends, then you're not going to have a healthy social life. But on the opposite time, if you budget, then your finances will be better. If you look at how much you're spending and how much you're saving, you're going to be in alignment with your financial goals. If you make sure that you are moving your body, if you make sure that you're paying attention to your emotions and you have like a schedule of when you check in with yourself, all these things that I share with the lifestyle design method are meant to help you really be in alignment with your intentions in your everyday life. And when you're in alignment with your intentions, you experience more peace in your life.
And how do people, when it comes to intentionality, I understand there's, they're kind of like puzzle pieces, everything you mentioned, and they all kind of work together. But do you find that the spiritual piece, like when people do their assessments, um, that that's really a good place to start as far as intentionality, like getting in touch with your own? You said people often don't even know what they like or why they're here, or and so do you find that that piece, a spiritual piece, any more foundational than some of the other ones?
Absolutely. I honestly feel like spiritual well being is the most important area of well being. I feel like, when we really nurture our relationship with God or, universe or whatever your name for the divine is, when we nurture that relationship, we really are nurturing ourselves because that is our true self. That is our spiritual self. And think of everything on the outside, like our body, it is all surrounding and part of our spiritual essence. But our spiritual essence is the truth of who we are. And hopefully, when we tap into that spiritual essence through prayer and meditation, we can get more in alignment with what we need, as I mentioned earlier, like what we need uniquely for ourselves, for our body, for our environment, for our family. But it is about having that spiritual relationship where you're checking in with the divine. And a lot of times people see the divine or God outside of themselves. But I teach God is within you, inside and outside, and all encompassing. Basically, God is everything, everywhere, all at once, right? And so I feel like when you're able to tap into God within and tap into God outside of you and all around you, that's when you really start to develop a beautiful relationship with life because you realize that life is here to love you. And I had this quote that I said, like, I am here for God and God is here for me. I am here for God and God is here for me. And anytime I feel like I'm not clear or that I don't have direction in life, I just repeat that affirmation. I am here for God and God is here for me. And next thing you know, I start to feel better. And next thing you know, I start getting answers and clarity. And sometimes I just think we get caught up in worry. We get caught up in thinking about the heaviness of life sometimes, and it can take us away from our true self, our authentic self, our spiritual self. And so when we come back to our spiritual well being through prayer, meditation, breath work, journaling, then we reconnect with our spiritual essence, just like the trees outside and, the animals, they're all just going along their life and they're like, they're not worrying as much as us humans, right? They're just going along and doing their thing. And so if we can look at nature, that's why I feel like time in nature is so important. And even if you can't get outside, having plants inside and some form of growth or nature inside really does help you connect and realize like things grow and things die and things need to be nurtured and things get sick. And the more that we take care of the world around us, the more we take care and nurture ourselves, the better our lives will be.
Beautiful, and I love that analogy and the phrase about God. That's wonderful. So your work emphasizes holistic well-being, and that's, of course, so there's all of these other pieces of the puzzle. And so how do the practices such as meditation or yoga, like how do they fit into this, and how can people start to cultivate that as part of their daily routine so that they can overcome fear and build courage?
That's one of my favorite questions. Like, okay, so how do I do this?
Yeah.
So because it lets me know, like, okay, they're down to try.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Talking about it is great, but it doesn't actually help us until we've cultivated the practice.
exactly. And when you cultivate the practice, which I like to call rituals, you start to notice a profound change in your life. So I always tell people to start with the breath. Breath is spirit. And when you start with the breath, just deep inhale and deep exhale, you start to connect with your inner self, your soul. And when you start there, you can breathe through fear, you can breathe through anger, you can breathe through sadness, and the breath is always there and it's absolutely free. So I would say start with 3 deep breaths right now as you're listening to me, just in through the nose and out through the mouth, and a lot of us are carrying a lot of anxiety. So I often tell people to practice 25 breaths during the day whenever they feel a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit of stress. Just take 25 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And so breath work is one of my favorite practices because I do believe breath is spirit. We have it when we enter these human bodies and we don't have it when we leave, right? So that is our number one free tool to regulate our nervous system, to help heal trauma, everything. So I would say start with breath work. Even when you wake up in the morning, instead of jumping out of bed, just take 3 deep breaths, especially if you're in a hurry, 3 deep breaths. If you got time, 25, right? But just taking that 3 deep breaths will help, stay regulated. And then you ease into your day instead of slapping the alarm clock, jumping out of bed, fumbling over your morning things. And then I think building in rituals into your day. So everyone's different. And I think this is very important to know because my daily rituals last for 2 to 4 hours. I am so serious about my ritual time. And I have a big purpose in the world. So because I always tell people it needs to be 50-50. A lot of people are like at 90%. They do 90% work and 10% self care or 10% of their rituals.
If
So
that,
I'm
right?
like, right? But I'm like, it has to be 50-50. And the bigger your work in the world, the more self care you need, the more you need to pour into yourself because otherwise we're pouring from an empty cup, right? But I used to have the question for myself, but like, how much self care do I need? A lot. If you want to help like the world and millions of people, then you need a lot of self care. You need to pour into yourself. You need to make sure you're good. Deal with your daily trauma. Deal with your frustrations with your family, with your team, with your partner. You have to really address anything that comes up in your life so that you have the energy to move forward and shine your light on the world. But what happens if we start trying to do the work in the world and serve and serve and serve, and we just stuff or like, oh, that's fine, it's okay. We start to pile up. The body is keeping score of every time we were wrong, every time we were frustrated, every time we're like, it's okay. And we know it wasn't. So it's building up all these tallies. And next thing you know, we're sick and we don't know why. And we're like, why me? And it's like, oh, because you didn't really want to address that frustration. You didn't want to address when that person hurt your feelings. You didn't want to address how it made you feel when your parent didn't show up to your thing. You didn't want to address how it made you feel when your fiance didn't listen to you. You didn't want to address how it felt when your child talked back to you. So really addressing the things that come up in life is so important, especially for people who are servant leaders and especially for people who want to do a lot of good in the world. You really can't spiritually bypass, right? You really can't overlook even the small things that happen to you. I was 40 years old when I really understood how many microaggressions that I was just stuffing onto the world. So I took the last 2 years to go ahead and heal all that stuff, and some things I was addressing when I went into my practice, even after I wrote my book. But there were some things from my childhood and from trauma I've been through that I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And I wasn't done with it. But your body will let you know if there's something that you need to address. It will come up. So the most important thing is to really listen. And when you find out, do the work, do the healing work you need. And I was doing breath work with yoga, but when I had PTSD show up when around the time of George Floyd and when he got murdered, and I was having visions of when my brother was like mishandled by the police. And I was like, oh my goodness, I never dealt with that. I was 14 and I wasn't supposed to talk about it and I didn't, but I never addressed the trauma and the fear that I felt. And I started seeing his face and I was just like shocked, So sometimes we're not even aware of the stuff that has happened in our past and how deeply it can harm us. So it's very important when it comes up, when we feel those nudges of frustration or even jealousy or things like that, we lean into it. You want to lean into any emotion that you're feeling outside of love and really reflect and say, you're not a bad person because you have bad feelings, right? Or negative feelings, or whatever you
Right, right.
call them. Those are real. They are your friends. Your emotions are your best friends too. And so they're messengers to let you know, like, hey, this doesn't feel good. I'm uncomfortable here. And a lot of times it's opportunity for deeper exploration. So I would say, on a regular basis, make time. And if you can't make time daily, which I highly recommend, at least weekly, like on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, take some time to reflect on your week. I say daily, at the end of the day, I reflect on my day. What was great about the day? What was challenging about the day? What do I want to change? So doing that on a daily basis will help you quickly get through any frustration so that you can be your best self. And so I think that is the best thing someone listening now can do. Just start with the breath, know that it's your favorite tool, and then make sure you're self-reflecting every day. And then, of all the things, don't try to do every single thing. Someone like me who has a list of 20 things they're doing, maybe just do one or two things that resonate with you, that feel the best for you, and start there. But don't try to do too much, because a lot of times if you do too much, then you'll just stop and you'll feel like a failure. But if you do one or two things that really resonate with you, you'll start to find your groove.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. I want to talk a little bit about time because you
Yeah.
use this phrase, make time for that. And I also want to talk about, while it's very important for us to be responsible, that also people, like you said, don't feel bad for having bad feelings and for having sort of neglected yourself along the way, because we are so conditioned. And I think we're actually going through this transformation, um, in partly, thanks to the pandemic era, where people are really reevaluating, like, what is work. We've been conditioned to believe that work is, what we do in the world or what we do for a paycheck. But as you're talking about these rituals and spending 2 to 4 hours, I mean, still it's only 2 to 4 hours out of a 24-hour period, right?
Right.
And so it's like, yes, take responsibility, but don't feel bad, because part of this is, deep conditioning about the things that we're supposed to pay attention to. And I'm
Right.
really hoping that that's shifting. Do you, in your coaching practice, do you get a sense that's shifting? Does it feel like people are wanting to pay more attention to themselves?
I think people are becoming more aware of the detriment that happens if you don't. But I think still people are spending more time on social media and watching TV than they are on self-care. And that's really hard, because it's like you have time, but you are not choosing to allocate that time for self-care and self-reflection. So I think it's really important, like you said, there's 24 hours in a day. And when I work with my clients, I basically say, okay, we're going to look at your whole 24-hour day. And we start with sleep. How much sleep are you getting? Hopefully 7 to 8 hours. And I don't get always 7 to 8 hours every day, but we put an ideal schedule together, starting with sleep. And then when you wake up, and how much time do you have for self care? Do you have 10 minutes or 2 hours or 4 hours? And then we plan it out, right? And we just take it one step at a time. Okay, let's go into work. Let's go and let's look at your meals that you're eating. So we literally go through every hour and minute of the day. And this does not mean every day is going to be their ideal day. But when a person has a sense of how they can fit in the self-care, the self-reflection, oh, I can do breath work at lunch. Oh, I can go walk in nature. And I thought I didn't have any time because I do want to watch a TV show when I get home with my partner, so you can figure it out if you're intentional. So it goes back to the intention. You have to be intentional about wanting to figure it out, and you do have to schedule it. Now, you don't have to go by the schedule, but if you don't schedule it and you don't find it fitting into your lifestyle, it's not going to happen. Just because it's good for you, it's not just going to jump into your lifestyle itself. You really have to plan it out, make time for it. And I'm a perfect example. I used to work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm like, okay, give myself a little self-care in the day. And then I work, some people work from 9 to 5, but I can work from 8 to 8. And then I have a little couple hours before I go to bed. But that's literally what I thought was good for me until I realized, oh no, based on the capacity of work you're trying to do in the world, you need more self care. You need more reflection time. You need more time with God. You need more time listening. And I was like, oh, okay. And there's not time until you make time. Like we are the holders of time. And so we have to remember that everything is happening in life, whether you move fast or you move slow. We've all heard the story of the tortoise and the hare our entire lifetimes, right? But we always feel, most of us feel, if we don't move at the pace of a hare, that we're going to miss out on life. When actually, you don't have to move as slow as the tortoise, but somewhere in between, you can find a balance of moving through life intentionally, and you'll get to stop and smell the roses, and you'll really get to enjoy the journey. So my biggest recommendation is like, don't forget to stop and smell the flowers. Don't forget to enjoy the journey because life is happening. We all have come here for a certain amount of time. But if we rush through life, we miss the most beautiful things in life. We miss the smile on a stranger's face when we gave them a compliment. We miss, a child having their first words because we're rushing to the next thing. We're rushing to the next meeting. So I really think stopping and paying attention to those magical moments that happen every single day. Like even in this conversation, I love the way you're like, oh, that really resonated with me. Like that small little gesture of reflection is you really enjoying the conversation versus just like, okay, I'm going to ask you all these questions, So I just think it's so important to just enjoy the micro magical moments of life. And it really does make life a little sweeter.
Thank you. Beautiful. I'm just curious, is there like maybe one or two things that like you use with your clients in your coaching practice that does help them create the time and sort of making that move from just having the intellectual knowledge? Because I think a lot of people know behaviors that would be good for them.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this journey from having the intellectual understanding to actually doing the practice. And I kind of feel like that a piece of that is learning to value the self,
Mm-hmm.
which like, for me, like you said, I think that the spiritual piece is foundational. So, you know, like one of my daily prayers is let me see myself the way you see me, God.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the things that maybe one or two things that you share with your clients to help them get from the knowledge to the practice?
So, number one is scheduling. I do that first with every single one on one client. I do it in my community. I do it when I speak around the world. It's like, we're going to talk about scheduling because it is the cat's meow. It is going to help. If you don't write it down, it's not real. It's just floating in your head. It's like all conceptual, but not actual, right? So the schedule is the number one thing that helps my clients. And like a lot of people don't know, I didn't realize I'm not even eating until dinner time. I was eating and then I did it and then I stopped and now I'm just drinking an energy drink and maybe an energy bar. And so people really don't realize what their days look like until they write it down. And again, it's not like you have to look at it like every single day, although I do suggest looking at it every single day. But scheduling is the number one beneficial thing that I do for all of my clients. And then number two, which I really started teaching in the last, I want to say 3 years, is financial design. Really helping people look at their money and how they're spending, because a lot of people have a lot of stress in relationships. There's a lot of stress around finances, and we don't want to talk about it. You have to talk about your money and your credit, what you're saving, what you're investing. Are you in debt? How do you feel about it? Because that's the thing that, in well being, we talk about fitness and nutrition. Yeah, I think people get that and either they're going to do it or they're not. But a lot of people haven't learned to talk about their finances, and finances actually cause a lot of stress, which is the reason we're eating and not working out because we feel like we got to make more money and we don't have time for those things. If we didn't have the financial stress, then there would be more time to do the things that actually enhance our well-being. So helping clients figure out like how much do you need to make in a year? How much do you want to make in a year? How much is that a month? How much is that in a week? And really breaking it down for clients has been the number two beneficial things that I've shared, because I always ask for feedback, like what's been the most helpful? And I do group coaching and masterminds. And those two things, the scheduling and the financial design, have come back as the top two things that have really helped people like, wow, okay, like, wow, this is where I'm at and this is what I need. And I think when people see it, it makes it more real than it just being abstract. Like you look in the bank and, oh my God, there's no more money there. Okay, it's there now. And especially for entrepreneurs, it's hot and cold. Some months is hot, some months is cold. Some days you're eating gourmet meals and the next you're eating ramen noodles. So I think, just being clear on where you are, being honest about where you are, and being able to look at things and set goals based on that area of well-being, just like you would your physical or nutritional well-being is really important. And it's been really helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, as you said, like so everything that you're talking about, there's all these pieces that work together. And the financial piece, of course, is foundational because in the day and time that we live in, obviously, money is our medium of exchange. And so it is seemingly tied to our survival. And so people, I think, don't recognize that they think, well, if I don't look, but like you said at the beginning, bringing it full circle, when we have worry and stress, that is an intention we're setting and we don't even realize it. So if we're worried about our finances, then we're kind of drawing that lower vibration, until something shifts and we can learn the lesson to, oh, I do have to look at it because I'm setting an intention regardless of whether or not, I'm conscious of it in this moment.
Absolutely. And I want to share this one other tip because has been another profound one, which people have said has really helped them. I really believe, in energetics, and energy is everything. So a lot of times when we have debt, and let's say we are living from check to check, a lot of times you'll just ignore the debt because it's like, I just have to pay my daily expenses. But what I get people to do, even if it's like $1 a month, is start paying on debt, because that creates a vibrational frequency of taking care of a responsibility instead of ignoring it. And once they start that energy of like, I'm taking care of everything that I have borrowed in life, it actually raises your frequency. And you would not even believe how much paying as small as I have had a person pay $1 a month. I was like, literally, that's all I want you to do. You'll spend that on a snack in a grocery store. I want you to pay $1 a month on your debt. And how that vibrational energy of taking care of a debt brought abundance into their life. And now they're making over six figures. But it took them bringing energy on what they had a lot of shame and guilt around, which was carrying the debt in the first place.
Yeah. So, gosh, I'd love to just keep going and going and going here. But I just want to know, going back, like you mentioned part of your own experience in the time when George Floyd was murdered and having to deal with your own trauma. And I want to know, like, what advice you would give somebody who really feels paralyzed by their fear and they just don't even know where to start their journey.
100% start with breath work. During that time, I actually went even deeper, and also therapy. And even if you feel like you can't afford therapy, there are a lot of programs out there that can have, if you're low income, you can get like help with therapy. But number one, breath work for yourself every single day. And I teach breakthrough breath work, which is deeper than just in through the nose and out through the mouth. No, it's a deeper breath where you really get deep, deep, deep into your subconscious and really bringing up things that have happened in the past so that you can deal with them. for me at that time, I personally got EMDR. And I even got my breathwork certification because I was like, I want to know how this stuff works because it's working, right? And so I did EMDR. I would definitely recommend if you feel paralyzed, if you feel that stuck, if you feel really, really dark, definitely reach out for support. We're not meant to do life alone. You do not have to do this alone. You do not have to get through this alone. Reach out to someone that you love, reach out to someone that loves you, that believes in you. And if you don't have anyone, then reach out to a professional organization that you can just trust to like really talk about what you're going through. The most important thing is if something's bringing you that far down inside that you're paralyzed, you need some help to bring it out. And if you can start bringing it out by talking and communicating and sharing, that starts the healing process. And when you're in the process of setting it up, if you're doing the breath work, that will help you deal with the daily anxiety that can a lot of times accompany feeling fear and feeling paralyzed by fear.
Gosh, thank you for that. And thank you. You've shared so many wonderful things to help people overcome their fear and build their courage. As we come to our close here, is there anything else that you want to share with people to help them live their best life in 2025?
Mm. I feel like just remember that you are enough just the way you are. Sometimes we'll go through highs in life and lows in life, and just know that you are enough. And every single person experiences highs and lows, whether they want to talk about it or share about it or not. It's part of the human experience. So don't let your lows take you out. And when you're experiencing a high, help someone else who might need your support.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. So, how can people find out more about you and your work? I'm sure after watching this, people are going to want to reach out and get some more juicy morsels from you.
Well, thank you. I hope so. And you can find everything at koyaweb.com and on social media, all my Instagram handles and I guess YouTube is under my name, KoyAWEBB. And my book, Let Your Fears Make You Fierce, is you can find anywhere books are sold and on Audible. And yeah, I have my community open, my lifestyle design community, where we are intentionally designing our lives and creating those rituals. And I love to invite you if you feel like, you really want to live a life of intention. Then there's a community, and our community is international. I'm going to Saudi Arabia in a couple of days, and New York and Bahamas. We love to travel, and our community reflects our travel because I truly believe we all just want to be loved, and being in community helps us feel that.
Yes, I think community is so important, especially in these times that seem so uncertain. Gosh, thank you so much, Koya. It has really been an honor and a pleasure to be in conversation with you. I hope we get to connect again in the future. And let's end it here. And thank you for watching and listening. And I know that you've gotten a lot out of this. I know I have.
Ashe. Thank you.